Hello everyone, this is Shokora, Zouheikyoku, aka chocomint, and welcome back to our Let's Play of Meeting in the Flesh. In the last playthrough, we have finished another day at work, and now we have a free day on the eclipse, which is a very important event, which we have a lot of free time, in which we got an invitation from Miesto to meet him at the Outlook, so I wonder what will happen. Is there anything that we're going to talk about there? We'll see. Excuse me? My first thought is that the office feels really quiet as I push the door open, which is odd. Shouldn't it be bustling with activity today? And then I realize what's going on. The office is emptier than usual. Some desks look like they've been abandoned in a hurry, paperwork thrown in all directions. Others are meant by their usual occupants, piled high with papers and communication bladders, the tools crisscrossing the floor like cobwebs. There's the constant, furious rush of bent on paper, punctuated only when a worker crosses a bladder to whisper furiously into it. The communication tubes boost non-stop, carrying a steady stream of messages out of the office to the overlooked officers out on the field, I assume. Doing my best not to interrupt their concentration, I make my way past the desk towards the overlooked bot in the corner. So immersed in their jobs, the workers all ignore me as I step over the communication tubes. Yes, though? The eyes on the bot are half-lidded, and it's not until I speak up that they blink open and turn to me. I got your note, but I can come back later if you're busy. There's a brief pause before the eyes simultaneously shut. Then the bot cracks open with a wet, sparging noise. No, I'm glad you came. Yes, the voice is muffled by the sound of fluids slogging off him. His exoskeleton sheds the coating of slime easily, and when he brushes his hand over his body, it comes off him in vicious strains, blobbing back into the bot's wool in big globs. Thank you for dropping by on such short notice, Bill. It was a rather sudden request, so I wasn't sure if you'll be able to make the time. He bends down to brush the last of the bot slime off his body, then carefully extracts one leg from the bot, letting the slime drip off it completely before he sets it on the floor. Then he repeats the process with the other foot. Then his balance slips. Perhaps because of a residual streak of slime, his foot skids sideways, and he topples over. Fortunately, my reflexes are quick enough that I can prop him up before he hits the floor or crashes back into the bed. What, are you alright? Yes, though seems stunned for a moment, eyes wide and shocked. His gaze slides over to me, staying in my face before he gives a small nod. Ah, yes. Thank you. I suppose that could have been dangerous if I hit the floor. Behind me, I hear a worker ask if everything is okay, but most of the others don't even seem to have noticed anything happening. Their focus is incredible. Perhaps that's what it takes to keep things running smoothly during the eclipse. I carefully help Yesto back on his feet, finally realizing just how exhausted he seems. Without a coating of slime, it's more obvious that his exoskeleton is lacking in its usual luster. His eyes half-lidded as he gingerly rubs a hand against the soft connective tissue near his jaw. I'm afraid I rather lost track of time, and I haven't been able to rest in a while. I might be more exhausted than I thought. You need to rest. I keep my voice firm as I look up at him, meeting his gaze steadily. Of course, but my work. Iesto is clearly distracted, eyes closed as he struggles with his thoughts, but he clearly needs to rest. I need to persuade him somehow. Say he needs to take better care of himself for the future. Tell him he can't work as well if he's in poor condition. I don't think you can work as well if you're in poor condition. I mean, it's not exactly like he should rest for completely for today, like have a day off or anything. Just a small short break is okay. He obviously can't work if he's feeling unwell. If his focus is on his work, then this could persuade him. He asked though, I know your work is important, But you also can't run yourself ragged like this. Your work is hard. You won't be able to do it well unless you're in good condition. So please rest for a moment. There was also something you wanted to talk to me about, right? Iesto looks over at me, as if remembering my lessons, and then he nods. Right, of course. He inhales and exhales slowly. I watched the sub portion of his exoskeleton swallow that breath, settling back down as he empties his lungs. After 2 or 3 more slow breaths, he seems much calmer and offers me a smile, his usual smile. You're right. I think a short break would be good. Even though he still looks exhausted, it's good to see him at least acting like he usually does. I can't help giving a small sign of relief. Yeah, that sounds great. We end up back on the rooftop, beside the dormant spy. It too seems a little strained. The eyes seem somewhat bloodshot as they lazily scan the horizon, and when I gently touch one of the protruding lumps of flesh, it feels a little hot. The skin throbs slightly beneath my touch, and I can feel the steady pulse of fluids beneath the stretch of skin. I'm afraid I've overworked it somewhat. Iesto approaches slowly, his hands running across a large frame sneaked over the handrail. It's not in any danger of serious damage, of course. I'm sure I would give out long before the tower ever does. But I'm afraid I don't have yet the experience and intuition that the reviewers overlooked it. They could often pinpoint source of danger and commotion and look towards them more quickly. Lacking that intuition, I have to search the city more frantically in search of any trouble, and it strains the eyes. I apologize. His voice is gentle as he directs the last statement at the tower. The tower is silent, of course. Not that it could ever speak, but without an overlooked resident in the bath, it doesn't even glance Iesto's way. It simply, quietly gazes over the city, automatically searching for any significant signs of activity. Activity that is sure to find plenty enough. Now that we're on the rooftop, I'm much more cognizant of how unusually active the city is. Here and there, colorful plumes of smoke crawl out from between buildings, lit from nearby the flickering light of fires. Celebratory fires, perhaps, or malicious ones, possibly. To our east, I can make out a large crowd gathering at an intersection. It boils with activity, though from this distance, it's hard to make out what the individuals are doing. From all around us, the sound of shouting and jeering and screaming carries on the wind. The breeze always wipes away those voices before we can make out specific words, but the impression we get is always the same. Today is a day unlike any other in recent memory. Controlling that chaos must be a gargantuan task. I can't imagine how difficult it is for Iesto and the other overlooked workers. Ah, right. Iesto? Yes. I've been lost in my thoughts as I stare out over the sea, and Iesto had taken the chance to quietly take a seat beside me. His legs swing off into the empty air of the edge of the building as he looks up at me. I take a seat as I continue. The office seemed much emptier than usual. Did something happen? I assume it would be much busier on the eclipse. Oh, that. I'm afraid we lost quite a few workers today. Officers too. They are individuals, after all, with their own priorities and desires. It may be our duty to watch over the city, but it's difficult to place duty above something truly important to you. Say, traveling somewhere to meet someone very important, or settling a lifelong grudge against a very bitter foe. Yes, the voice is steady and soft. There's no trace of ill will or bitterness in his voice. In fact, part of me wishes they were here to help, of course. But another part of me is grateful. It means they just me enough to look over the city despite their absence. I should have prepared for this in the first place. It was my mistake not anticipating it, so I'm grateful they trusted me regardless. He seems pensive. I badly want to comfort him, to make him feel better, but it's difficult knowing what to say. They were right to trust you, weren't they? I'll just have to do my best. Things are going smoothly so far, after all. I passed by some commotion on the way here, but the officers got there really quickly, and it didn't look like it was getting out of control. You're doing a great job keeping the city safe. I suppose I'm holding on so far, but that isn't good enough. He still seems absorbed in his task. Unwilling to interrupt him, I wait quietly until he goes on. I've managed to avoid any catastrophe so far, but only barely. I've had to claw my way through some tight situations already, and I'm sure things will have escalated while I'm taking this break. I'll have to scramble to catch up once I'm back in the pod. But you was also right that I need to rest periodically to maintain my focus, or else I'm liable to make more mistakes, which would be equally bad. I don't have the experience or composure or intuition that the reviewers overlooks did, and though they assured me I would soon catch up to them, I'm afraid that won't be the case. Even if this eclipse goes safely, it may be sheer luck, but as this year's eclipse has been on the tame side so far, so if future eclipses are rowdier, if there is more going on, I'm surely failed to keep the city safe. There is a deficiency I need to fix. The outburst is a little shocking. And all the time I've known Yesto, he's always been unfailingly calm and kind and gentle, thoughtful and composed, someone who always kept tight control over himself and was sharply aware of everything going on around him. There had always been an ease to him that I'm now realizing I've been taken for granted. It hurts to think that he's been harboring these distressed thoughts, and I hadn't been able to help him. Yesto, we never know what will happen in the future, none of us, so I don't think it's fair of you to be so hard on yourself. And I don't think you're deficient in any way. Like that reverse overlook said, if you're just lacking in experience, then that'll fix itself as time goes on, won't it? You're not lacking in anything. That suddenly caught his attention. Yesto looks over at me sharply, eyes wide, and my voice dies in my throat. Had I said something wrong? Oh, I'm sorry, Val. I didn't mean to surprise you. I must have looked taken back, because Yesto suddenly smiles. It's a little rueful, a little embarrassed, highlighted by the way he touches a hand to his face, finger tapping against his jaw. I was absorbed in my task. I was practically talking to myself. There's something I should have explained first. That's why I asked you to come here after all. I apologize. I shouldn't have hurried to say those things. He seems to calm down somewhat, taking another deep breath before he shifts positions to look at me more directly. Bill, have you ever met one of my kind before? The conversation's not going exactly where I expected to. Regardless, I gave the question some serious thought, then shook my head. I don't think so. Not to my memory. Right. Then, I assume you are familiar with our life cycles either. Probably not. Then, please let me explain. It won't take terribly long. Myself and many of the others who have served as Overlook, all kind has always been perceptive. We have always excelled at pinpointing anomalies in our surroundings and addressing them as quickly as possible. Of course, we don't take this for granted. In the long history of this tower, there have been many who have served without being the same kind as us, and not all of our kind are fit to serve as Overlook either. It is a position we work towards and serve with gratitude. Those of us who are selected as the Overlook have always been honored by the position and pour all of our efforts into doing the best job we possibly can. Because we love the city, of course, but also because we don't want to have any regrets. We don't want to look back at our time as Overlook and think, I could have done better. I could have done things differently. And in the end, there is something all of the previous Overlooks did before experienced their first eclipse. Bonding with a partner. I understand now why Yesto reacted the way he did to my attempts at comforting him. This thing he was lacking was an abstract criticism of his own abilities, but something concrete he felt he failed to do. Bonding with a partner. I feel slightly embarrassed knowing I misunderstood him so drastically, but only not to show that I'm following along with his explanation. Iesto continues. You see, no matter how perceptive we are still just one individual with one mind. By bonding with our partner, however, we evolve a step further. We create a deep connection with a second mind and welcome something greater than the sum of its parts. And you feel like you should have made a bond before the eclipse? There's a pause before Iesto shakes his head. That isn't quite it. I don't regret having brought up my body until now. Of course, it might have made it easier on myself to survive this eclipse if I were bonded. At least, it would give me peace of mind, knowing that I'll become the best possible iteration of myself before facing this challenge. But I also didn't want to bond before the eclipse because the bonding process would necessitate changing my relationship with that individual. I'd rather address the change and one that can't be reversed. The birds of pieces are falling into place. I can see now why Iesto was discussing those hypotheticals the other day. This is what he's been worried about. My worry eases just a fraction. With a better understanding of what Iesto was trying to say, I think I can better understand his concerns. A drastic change to a relationship. Thoughtlessly, I murmur the words under my breath. Iesto nods and continues. Yes, one that can't be undone. Because we need to devour the person we're bonded with. Is that what the tag of cannibalism is saying? Because I'm seeing it. Oh dear. Again, we did have the warning at the first chapter, at the first playthrough of the game. So another warning again. This contains a lot of horror-ish content. Even though there is not, this one is like not the type of scary horror. It's not a type of scary horror. It's just a type of a cultural horror kind of thing. Like for humans, we don't do this, but for animals, insects, then yes. For example, I think the spider have those kind of instance. There's some example of this, like the mantis and the spider. I think they devour the partner to give their nutrition to themselves and their children or something like that. So yeah, some bugs have that, and this one is another word. So different culture, different creatures, different type of cultural exchange, I guess. On the other hand, I guess a good thing is that technically, if we're given on this logic that he is going to devour us or will. Okay, I'm just making assumption. So generalize, if he were to do that with a partner, then I guess the partner will lose the body, but I think the mind still remains. So a good thing is that technically the partner isn't dead, it's just inside him, I guess. So it's a type of together forever, to swallow you inside of me forever, become one. This is a literal become one in a sense. But anyway, next. I see. That makes sense. Now that I think about it, I've read about individuals like that in the past. They're somewhat rare. Individuals who can meld into another body to become a part of them, or individuals who can absorb others to become a combined entity. Individuals who aren't complete without assimilating another into the body in some form. It must be a hard way of living, needing to depend on another in order to grow. I nod sympathetically. Alright, I'm starting to get what you mean. I guess those hypothetical questions aren't really hypothetical after all. I give a small grin as I say it, and Iesto responds with a laugh. It's the most pronounced I heard him Saturday, and it eased some of the tension that's been building in my chest. I suppose not. I'm a little embarrassed now, thinking about how transparent that was, but I badly needed to get it off my chest, and it was the only way I could think to bring it up with you. The Esther looks away once more, gazing out over the city. Someone below us shouts, but we can't see them from where we're sitting, and the words are indistinct. Just one more sound added into the ambience of the city. Bill, you're intelligent. I'm sure you can guess what I'm getting at. Yeah, you want Bill and you to become one? Yes? Of course. The air feels electric. Light is filled with sparks that burst around me as I give a small nod. I can't say I'm happy exactly, but I do feel like this is such a murderously important moment. I'm glad. He smiles without looking at me, his gaze still directed out over the rooftops as he closes his eyes. His hand, however, drifts closer to me, fingers extended as if searching for something. I promptly extend my hand, allowing his fingers to touch against mine. His bones are flawlessly smooth and cool to the touch as they graze over the back of my hand. Then he squeezes my hand, just once. His grip is gentle but tight. But even so, it wouldn't do for me to skirt around the issue. I need to talk to you about this in a straightforward and honest manner, or else it wouldn't be fair. It's just that I've never done it before, so I hope you understand if I seem somewhat nervous. Ernesto exhaled slowly before looking to me once more. His eyes are fixed on me intently. The ember of his I don't know how to pronounce this. I'm sorry. This is a word I don't use a lot, so I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Sclerae and refined and almost glowing in the warm sunlight. Will, you're a highly attentive and diligent person. I've admired those traits of yours, and aspire to be like you, in some ways. There's a warmth to you that not everyone has, and it's the same warmth I like to show to the city. I respect you deeply. I cherish you. And in many ways, it pains me to put you in this situation. The bonding process would bring us closer than ever. Our minds would be brought together as one. We would be able to share our thoughts, our feelings, our dreams with each other with absolute clarity. As an evolved being, we would always be at peace with each other. But there are things we could lose. Their ability to touch and see each other like this, for one. And because our lives will become one, there are things we would lose. We would make every effort to maintain connections to your old life, of course. I deeply respect the life you have right now. I would never want to take away any of it from you. Not a single bit of it. We would talk to the same people, visit the same places, experience the same things again. But it would never be the same. A bonding process is a big decision, and I don't ask this lightly of you. I won't ask you for your answer immediately. I would only ask, Bill, would you please consider bonding with me tonight, during the eclipse? Hearing the facts laid out like this is dizzying, especially when they're coming from someone as usually composed and calm as Ernesto. But because it's him, I can tell this is something tremendously important to him. His straightforward honesty means a great deal to me, and I give a firm nod. Of course, I'll give it some serious thought. Ernesto exhales hoarsely, as if he'd been holding his breath. Thank you. I knew you wouldn't be the type to immediately reject it or run away, but still, I was quite nervous for a moment. Thank you for listening to me and for taking my request seriously. I appreciate it more than you can imagine. He withdraws the hand that had been touching mine and brings it to his face, brushing his fingers against the corners of his eyes. Already, he looks like a generous weight has been lifted from his shoulders. And I feel the same, of course, seeing him looking so relieved. and hearing that important question to him without a veil of hypothetical is very refreshing, in a way. We hear record spout of cheering from somewhere far away, the shouts petering off into just a few stray whoops, and Iesto gives a dry laugh. I suppose it's as good a signal as any that I need to return to my work. He rises to his feet without waiting for an answer, then promptly offers me a hand. I accept it gladly, clambering upright and dusting myself off. I take it you aren't running your usual route today. I noticed you don't have your back. Yeah, the boss gave me the day off. He said I should enjoy the eclipse. And he's absolutely right. We're heading down the stairwell back into the office, and Iesto smiles as he holds the door open for me. It's a special day, after all. I know how hard you usually work. You more than deserve a break today. You probably deserve that break just as much, if not more. Unfortunately, not today. Maybe next time, if there's a slow day. Iesto already seems in much better spirits. The break seems to have done him a lot of good, and he stretches his limbs as he approaches the bed. The pool of fluids inside glimpse, the unbroken surface practically shimmering in the light. But today, I have plenty of work to get done. And with that, he steps into the bed. The fluids well up around his feet, pulling up higher as he begins to lower his body, and I blurt out in a hurry. Iesto. Yes. Good luck with your work. You can do it. I know you can. You're going to do an excellent job keeping the city safe, and I'll be back in the evening, right before the actual eclipse. Let's talk then. A heartbeat passes before Iesto nods. He smiles. Though it's seemingly his usual gentle smile, I can sense a flicker of something more in the way he looks at me. A sort of intimacy that wasn't there before. Like we're sharing our secret. I guess we are, in a sense. I'm looking forward to it. Have fun now, Devil, and stay safe. The bot closes up around him in an instant, the two halves of his flesh shell coming together with a wet sound suction. The numerous eyes on the bot roll once, as if trying to find a focus, open wide, then immediately go half-lidded. Iesto must have promptly directed all his focus outside. I'm sure it's necessary. The city must be escalating as its activities as we grow ever closer to the time of the eclipse. Everyone else is also deeply immersed in their work, and I walk past them as quietly as I can, careful not to step on any of the communication ladders. Nobody so much as glances at me as I step towards the door. The creak of it pulled open sounds so loud to me, but to them, it doesn't exist. I'm glad such delicious people are keeping our city safe. I end up wandering the streets outside. I need to think about Iesto's robotization of course, but I feel like I need to calm myself first, before I can address something so important. So I walk. It feels good to walk. My body is so accustomed to running my daily route that I've been feeling angstier than I realized, and simply taking the streets at a brisk walk helps me clear my head. My feet carry me down familiar paths, and I let my eyes wander over the various signs and sounds. This is all very, very familiar territory to me, but today, on the day of the eclipse, everything is different, just a little. Just enough to make me appreciate the city all the more. I walk past a small crowd. They've gathered around one individual who stands tall, arms spread, speaking in a booming voice. Today is the day, friends! In just a few hours, the eclipse will happen! Good fortune will come to all of us! And so we depart now, after the bone blast, to hunt the giant earthworm! The crowd erupts into cheers. Several arms are raised high, hands clasped tight around spears. This must be a hunting party. Everyone looks ecstatic, practically mad with excitement, and it's almost infectious. I find myself smiling as I walk by. They say the earthworm cannot be hunted, but we'll roof them wrong. Will be remembered for years, for decades to come, and everyone will feast on earthworm tonight. To victory! To victory! The triumphant shouting and hollering is audible long after I turn the corner and up the street. The park is quieter. Not that it's totally free of the girl's influence, of course. I pass by what looks like a couple embracing each other, whispering to each other and giggling. They seem very happy, and I give them a wide berth, trying to pass by quietly without interrupting anything. Elsewhere in the woods, I can hear boisterous conversations and shouts, but all sounds are muffled by the ambience of the woods, and I look for an isolated spot where I can sit and think. It doesn't take terribly long for me to find a small group of trees by a short distance up the main path, flanking an old fallen log. The fingerprints on the grass swirl as I approach, no doubt alerted by the pad of my feet on the ground, but they settle down at once I take a seat. All around me, I can hear the chittering of insects and the distant crows. The city's bustle comes from someplace even further away, an ever-present but unmuted reminder of what's happening today. And sinking in this relaxing atmosphere, I close my eyes. Bill, will you please consider bonding with me tonight, during the eclipse? It's hard to really imagine what this bonding would be like. If it hadn't sounded like anything as simple as being eaten, I've heard of individuals like that, of course, who need to assimilate or absorb other people in order to survive or grow stronger. They often form bonds with those who had naturally short lifespans, or who were fated to die shortly after procreating. These relationships often seem short but passionate, no doubt amplified by the fact that one party would only live on in the other's memories. What ESO described, however, sounded completely different. The bonding process would bring us closer than ever. Our minds would be brought together as one. We would be able to share our thoughts, our feelings, our dreams with each other with absolute clarity. As an evolved being, we would always be at peace with each other. We, not I. So technically, we're not dying in a sense, I guess. So as he said, we. I won't vanish. I'll still be there. I'll be with Iesto. Yes. We become one forever. I will lose something, a lot possibly. Things would change drastically. But at the same time, I would gain something, a lifelong partner and trusted companion. So earlier the example of the mantis and the spider, now that's not really accurate example for this. It's an accurate example for previous examples that Bill had mentioned, the one who has to absorb someone in order to survive and evolve and survive, or is for someone who has a short lifespan and something like that. They did mention that. Bill did mention that. But for that one, is the older person only lives in someone's memory. So the eaten party is to that. But this one is a bit different, I guess. So that's a good thing, being together forever. And the city would benefit. Technically, it would be a small sacrifice for the sake of many. But still, would he still justice me for hesitating over this decision? Would he be upset with me if I said no? No, I don't think so. I end up quietly talking to myself as I surf through my thoughts. Iesto isn't like that. That's why he gave me this time to think to myself. And while his request had certainly caught me off guard, his honesty and sincerity had made it much easier to accept. With how passionate he seemed during that conversation, it was hard to imagine he wanted to bond with me purely for selfish reasons. From anyone else, I might have felt more uneasy being faced by this decision. But I feel like Iesto had wanted me to understand the full scope of the situation and had wanted me to think it over on my own, so I wouldn't feel pressured. This is my decision to make. I think of the various people in my life, my work, the things I enjoy doing, the places, sights and sounds I've experienced. I think of how my relationship to these precious things might change if I decide to bond with Iesto. And I think of Iesto. I think of long days spent with him. I decide, the two of us working together towards a common goal. I think of his calm smile, the gentle cadence of his voice, his calm and reassuring presence. I think of the time I've known him, of how much I've come to respect him and enjoy his company. I think about how it might be to grow even closer to him, to work towards protecting the city together with him. Absorbed in my task, I barely noticed the time going by. It's the rustle of leaves that finally snaps me back to reality, and I set off from where I end up slowing lying down on a log. The sudden movement is enough to set off the fingerboards nearby, and they wriggle unhappily as I clamber to my feet. The rustling turns out to be a small child barging through a nearby bush. The child gives me a confused look, as if demanding to know why I'm here, and I smile in return. Past the dense wall of foliage, I can hear an adult calling for the child. Maybe they're too big to get through the bush. Going around all the trees could take them a while. Sorry, there isn't much to do here. Let's go back, okay? It sounds like somebody is looking for you. The child bows at first, making a face, but reluctantly holds out a hand. I take the offered hand, tugging the child along gently as I go back through the foliage, the way the child had come. As we emerge from the bush, brushing leaves out of our eyes, the parent looks over with a start. Sorry to surprise you. I thought it would be best not to let a little one wander around the woods. It only takes a small tug at the child's hand to get them to return to their parents' side, and I'm thanked profusely. The child is so excited for their clips, I'm told. They wanted to go exploring on the special day. Last time, they found an enormous cluster of wildflowers in the woods, but had never been able to find it again, and they were sure to find it again today. The eclipse really is a special day for everyone, isn't it? I give the parent and a child a small wave as I leave, wishing the child good luck but suggesting that maybe they explore together. The child, perhaps understandably, seems offended by this unwarranted advice given by a stranger, but the parent, at least, thanks me once more while seeing me off. It feels good to be able to help people. It was a small gesture, one that cost me virtually nothing, but it was still helpful to someone, and that knowledge makes a warm feeling bloom in my chest. Thinking from this perspective, I can certainly see why Ernesto values his job so much. It makes sense that he is so devoted to helping the city as much as he can. Perhaps it really is a goal worth any sacrifice. I think back to how exhausted he seemed when he emerged from the bar, practically dizzy from the long time spent looking over the city. But at the same time, he seemed so proud and fond as he looked over the buildings from the rooftop, one hand touching against the spire's long bands. I look up to the rapidly darkening sky. In the far distance, I think I can make out the very tip of the spire, though it might just be my imagination confusing a wayward tree branch for the spire's top. Either way, I should probably head back. I think it's time. The streets are busier than ever as I make my way towards the Overlook office. Most people are clustered together in groups, the biggest ones overseen by Overlook officers standing at ready in case there's any trouble. I hear talk of a romantic profession going well. Someone decides to travel out west into unknown territory, and is recruiting maids to travel with them. Another person has decided today is the day they will begin the process of setting up their new business. The announcement is met with cheers. Overhead, the suns have drifted across the skies, seemingly on a collision course aimed at each other. The moon is a darker shape that crawls even closer, as if intent on devouring the suns. My skin almost feels tingly from the energy in the air, and I find myself jogging, then running towards the Overlook office. I want to see Esther. I want to let him know of my decision. The Overlook office is even quieter than before when I enter. The lights are off, and the desks are empty. The skies outside are rapidly darkening as the moon begins encroaching upon the sunlight, and the interior of the office feels almost desolate. It takes a moment for my eyes to adjust to the darkness, and then I realize the bot in the corner, alone, is still occupied. His eyes are all closed, Yasto must be completely focused on events happening outside. Unwilling to interrupt him, I walk over to the bed and sit beside it. It pulls gently, radiating an intense warmth. Like Yasto himself, it's an incredibly comforting presence. Just being near it tends to put one at ease. Despite not having run my route today, I find myself starting to grow languid and sleepy. I guess even just walking around and thinking about things is more exhausting than one might imagine. It does feel like it's been a very long day, after all. And if it's been a long day for me, it must have been exponentially more draining for Esto. I hope he'll be able to take another break soon. Will? I bolt upright at the sound of Esto's voice. I hadn't meant to fall asleep after all. Esto is crouched beside me, a hand still hovering over where he evidently been hesitating to shake at my shoulder. He laughs as I look to him, rubbing a hand on my face. You caught me by surprise. I didn't realize you arrived. Were you waiting long? No, not at all. It's just that the bath was really warm, and I guess I dozed off. I'm still trying to rub the sleep out of my eyes, and Esto smiles fondly. You should have gone home if you were so tired. It's been a busy day, after all. Our work here is pretty much done. The eclipse will be soon, and the officers have already been dispatched to all existing trouble sites, as well as standing by where we expect there might be any more trouble. Even the remaining workers here have small things they wanted to do before the eclipse happened, so I let them leave. So it took me a little longer to finish the last task. Sorry to keep you waiting. It's fine. You don't need to apologize. I'm finally feeling alert once more, and I sit up straighter to peer at Eostro's face. He still looks tired, but a little more at peace. With all the work done for this eclipse, he must be feeling tremendously relieved, not like earlier when he seemed so stressed. Besides, I couldn't leave. I needed to answer your question. Right. For a brief moment, I see a trace of nervousness return to Eostro's features. His eyes widen marginally before settling back into his calm gaze. His lips parting to reveal a sliver of teeth. They press together thinly as he nods. Of course. There's the subtle scrape of his exoskeleton on the floor as he moves to sit on the floor, facing me. The remaining light from outside filters through the window, highlighting his features from the inside, and glimmering out stray strands of his hair. His gaze feels more intense than ever as he looks at me, not demanding or prying, but patiently waiting for my answer. Despite his earlier signs of unease, his voice is quiet and calm as he says, Will, will you bond with me? His words have a beautiful clarity to them. They almost seem to echo in my chest, throbbing alongside my voice. The calm cadence of his voice is betrayed by a focused way he regards me, as if I'm the only thing in his world at the moment. A warm flush of gratitude rushes through my veins. Regardless of my answer, I'm incredibly grateful that he would ask such a thing of me. Though I never aimed for it, nor expected to become someone so important to Esto, I've always treasured our friendship, knowing that he feels the same way, and perhaps to a greater magnitude than I can truly comprehend. It's almost dizzying. And feeling a heaty rush of blood pour through me, I know there's only one way I can answer. I try to keep my voice as calm and clear as Esto's have been as I get my answer. So, we managed to meet with Esto, and this time we have been able to know about the vague hypotheticals that he mentioned before, which is a bonding process. It's an interesting process, to be honest. So, summary of this process: only one is left, so he will devour Will and evolve. But unlike the normal devouring like mantis or spiders, in which those bugs devour their mates and use that as nutrition for their chow or something else, this one Technically, it's still devouring, but the partner is not completely dead in a sense. The normal devouring means that only the memory of the other person remains in the memory. So, dead. No consciousness or something. But this one is more of somehow making the other person still alive in there. So 2 months in the same body. So I'm guessing using the same body too. And it's like a timeline, but not really. So maybe a kind of a split personality, but that split personality is awake at the same time. Except that it's not the same person, it's different person. So partners sharing the same body, I guess. Of course, this decision is very important, so we'll got some time to think about it before reaching a conclusion, a decision about the request of Yesto. But for the result of it, we will move to another video next time. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next on Meeting in the Flesh. Bye bye!